The year 1941 became the year when the British Empire hung over an abyss. Not Hitler's army on land posed the greatest threat, but an invisible enemy beneath the water. German submarines, which sailors called the Grey Wolves of the ocean, hunted in the dark waters of the Atlantic day and night. Every morning the British Admiralty received reports of no losses. Merchant ships carrying wheat from Canada went to the bottom along with their crews. Tankers with American oil turned into burning coffins in the middle of the ocean. Behind each sunken ship stood concrete numbers, thousands of tons of cargo that would never reach British ports. The island nation depended on these supplies completely, as a person depends on air. Without food from across the ocean, London, Manchester, and Liverpool would begin starving within months. Without fuel, factories producing aircraft and tanks would stop. Without weapons, the army could not resist the Wehrmacht, but in a quiet corner of England, in the old Bletchley Park estate, a team of mathematicians, linguists, and chess players prepared a weapon that does not shoot or explode. Their weapon was numbers, patterns, and logic. Their target was the Enigma machine, a device that German command considered absolutely unbreakable. This is a story about how mind defeated force and patience overcame despair. In the autumn of 1940, the situation in the Atlantic reached a critical point. German submarines operated using new tactics, which their commander Karl Donitz called Rudel Taktik, Wolfpack tactics, instead of solitary hunting. Submarines gathered in groups of 10 to 15 units. They patrolled certain ocean areas, waiting for merchant convoys. When one boat spotted a target, it did not attack immediately. Instead, the commander transmitted coordinates by radio, and the entire pack assembled for a joint attack. The results were horrifying. In October, a convoy under the code name SC-7 departed from the Canadian port of Halifax and set course for Liverpool. 35 merchant ships traveled under escort of only 2 corvettes, small escort vessels. The German pack attacked at night when visibility was zero. Over 2 nights, 20 ships went to the bottom. Sailors burned in flaming oil or died in icy water within minutes. The British Admiralty was powerless. The ocean was too large to patrol every square kilometer. Convoys changed routes, but German boats found them again and again. It seemed the enemy knew every move in advance. In reality, the Germans had an advantage not in prophecy but in mathematics and discipline. The Enigma machine used by the German Navy differed from Army versions. Instead of 5 rotors, operators had 8 at their disposal. This meant not just more combinations, but exponentially more variants for each message. If the Army Enigma had 60 possible rotor combinations, the naval version offered 336. Each combination required separate verification, and decryption time for one message could take weeks. By that time, information became useless. Convoy coordinates transmitted yesterday had no meaning today. Ships either reached port or lay on the bottom. British codebreakers at Bletchley Park understood the scale of the problem. They had already broken Army and Air Force Enigma using operator errors and repeated phrases, but the Navy was different. German sailors followed strict protocols. They never used standard greetings at message beginnings. They changed settings every 24 hours precisely at midnight. They checked each message twice before transmission. These men knew the price of error. A sunken ship does not forgive negligence. An additional layer of protection was bigram tables. These were special reference books where letter pairs were replaced with other pairs before encryption. Even if someone could guess rotor settings, without bigram tables the message remained an unreadable set of symbols. Tables were printed on red paper with water-soluble ink. In case of capture threat, it was enough to throw them overboard, and within seconds no trace of secrets remained. German command considered their system absolutely reliable and had grounds not to doubt. Admiral Donitz calmly planned operations, confident that the British were blind and deaf. Alan Turing was not military. This 27-year-old mathematician from Cambridge more resembled an absent-minded professor from children's books than a man on whose shoulders lay the empire's fate. He rode to work on a bicycle wearing a gas mask because he believed it helped with hay fever. He chained his cup to a radiator so colleagues would not take it accidentally. At the war's beginning, he buried his savings in a forest near Bletchley, and when time came to dig them up, he could not find the place. But his genius was undeniable. Back in the 30s, working on theoretical mathematics problems, he described a machine that could solve any computational tasks using algorithms. Now, he applied these ideas to the war's most complex puzzle. Turing headed a department called HUD 8, literally Barrack Number 8, on Bletchley territory. His team consisted of mathematicians, philologists, and simply intelligent people whom were gathered in one place. They worked around the clock trying to find a weak spot in the German system. Turing proposed a theory about bigram tables at the year's beginning. He assumed an additional encryption level existed, and without it progress was impossible. On April 26, the British destroyer Griffin captured the German trawler ship 26. On board they found documents printed on red paper. Sailors did not manage to destroy them during boarding. These were the same bigram tables Turing spoke about. Captured materials allowed reading messages for 6 days. This was the first ray of light in darkness, but far from victory. 6 days of outdated data provided no strategic advantage. A method was needed to break the code daily. In real time, Turing's team began experimenting with cribs, predictable text fragments. If you know a message definitely contains a certain word or phrase, this sharply narrows the search circle. For example, German weather reports always began with the word Wetterballen. Weather balloon. Coordinates always contained words nord, süd, west, or ost, to create more cribs. British aviation began dropping mines near German ports at certain coordinates. German ships necessarily reported discovered mines, indicating exact location. The British knew these coordinates and could use them as a cheat sheet for breaking, but even with cribs and tables, progress remained slow. Winter brought new losses. Submarines continued hunting, and British codebreakers felt oppressive helplessness. Each unread message meant a potentially saved convoy. Each delay cost lives. Turing understood a radical breakthrough was needed, and this breakthrough had to be not only intellectual but material. March 1941 brought the first real gains. A British landing party landed on the Lofoten Islands off Norway's coast. Their target was the German armed trawler Krebs, which patrolled the area. After a short battle, the Germans surrendered without managing to destroy documents. On board they found complete Enigma key tables for the current month. This allowed HUD 8 to read naval messages for several weeks, though with delay. More importantly, codebreakers could conduct reverse engineering of bigram tables, understanding their construction principle. The next breakthrough happened thanks to young analyst Harry Hensley. Studying flows of intercepted messages, he noticed a pattern. The German Navy had special ships that collected weather data in the Atlantic and transmitted it to base. These vessels sent short standardized reports, which were then broadcast to all submarines. Hensley understood two things. First, these ships were relatively defenseless and could be captured. Second, the standard weather report format provided perfect cribs. They always contained the same words in the same order. The Royal Navy immediately organized operations to search for weather ships. On May 7 in the North Atlantic, they captured München. On June 25, Lauenburg. But the most remarkable trophy was submarine U-110. On May 9, the British destroyer Bulldog attacked the German submarine with depth charges. The boat received damage and surfaced. The German crew began evacuation, believing the submarine would sink, but Bulldog's commander made a bold decision. He sent a boarding party inside the damaged boat right in the middle of the ocean while it still stayed afloat. Sailors descended into dark compartments not knowing if torpedoes would explode any moment. They found a working Enigma machine and current code books. This was gold. Captured materials from weather ships, the submarine, and the accumulated crib library combined. Turing's team received everything necessary for systematic breaking. The German Enigma network called Dolphin began yielding in summer. First individual days, then weeks, and from September 20, 1941 daily until war's end. This was a quiet revolution. The British Admiralty suddenly gained ability to read German fleet orders, submarine patrol coordinates, convoy attack plans, reports about fuel and torpedo levels. All this information allowed redirecting merchant ships. Bypassing hunting areas, results showed immediately, from March to June. Losses amounted to 282,000 tons of cargo monthly. In July the figure fell to 120,000 tons. By November, only 62,000. German submariners suddenly began returning to base without any success. Not understanding what happened, convoys somehow always went by wrong routes. Admiral Donitz suspected treason among his officers but could not believe the British broke Enigma. Britain's Atlantic lifeline remained open. But Turing understood success was fragile. Manual decryption even with all captured materials took hours, sometimes days. A machine was needed that could do this in minutes. The bomb idea was born from combining theory and necessity. Back in the 30s, Polish codebreakers created a device called Bombe, which mechanically searched through possible Enigma rotor settings. Turing took this concept and developed it to a new level. His bomb had to be faster, smarter, and capable of working with military Enigma versions. The first model, named Victory, was installed at Bletchley on March 18, 1940. This was a construction 2 meters high and weighing about 1 ton. Inside were 19 kilometers of wire and dozens of rotating drums that imitated Enigma rotor work. The machine could search through 17,576 possible settings in little more than 10 minutes, but a problem arose. The bomb produced too many possible solutions, called stops. Each stop had to be checked manually until the correct solution was found. This took hours and made the machine insufficiently effective. Gordon Welchman, Turing's colleague, found the solution. He developed an additional circuit called the diagonal board. This board used the reciprocal nature of Enigma's plug board. If letter A connects to letter D, then D automatically connects to A. The diagonal board excluded a huge number of false positives, reducing verification time by dozens of times. The improved bomb became a real weapon by the end of 1941. 6 such machines worked at Bletchley. During the next year, 6 more joined them, and more machines began placement at remote stations across England. Eventually their number reached to 100 units. Operating these machines required a large staff. From March 24, 1941, this work was performed by women from the Women's Royal Naval Service, who called themselves Wrens. Operating bombs was exhausting and monotonous. They hummed, smelled of machine oil, and required constant maintenance. Each drum had to be set with absolute precision. The slightest error and the result became useless. Wrens worked in 3 shifts, day after day, without the right to tell anyone what they were doing. After finding correct settings, messages could be decrypted using the British Type X machine, modified to imitate its German counterpart. But even a decrypted message was only part of a constantly changing puzzle. German texts were full of abbreviations, code names, and military jargon. Experienced translators and analysts were needed who could extract real meaning from information fragments. This work fell on the shoulders of hundreds of people at Bletchley, each of whom contributed to victory. Intelligence from Enigma began providing results on all fronts. In March 1941, codebreaker Mavis Lever noticed something strange in Italian naval transmissions. One encrypted text contained not a single letter L, since Enigma could not encode a letter S itself. Lever concluded the Italian Enigma operator sent a test signal using only letter L. This message allowed her to reveal the machine's rotor scheme. Further intercepts revealed Italian fleet plans to attack British ships off Greece's coast. This intelligence led to the Battle of Cape Matapan. The British fleet set an ambush, sinking 3 heavy cruisers and 2 destroyers. The Italian fleet lost over 2,000 sailors in one night. 2 months later, decryption at Bletchley helped detect the battleship Bismarck in the North Atlantic. This ship was the German fleet's pride, the most powerful warship of its time. It sank the British battlecruiser Hood and now hunted convoys. The British Admiralty threw all forces into the search. Decrypted messages indicated Bismarck's direction of movement. On May 27, the Royal Navy managed to approach and sink the giant. British military intelligence for the first time in history assigned this information the highest secrecy classification under the name Ultra. This word became a symbol of the war's most valuable secrets. But even Ultra could not stop all the conflict's horrors. In summer 1941, German forces invaded the Soviet Union. Behind them followed SS Einsatzgruppen engaged in systematic killing of civilians, especially Jews. Bletchley intercepted their reports. Publicly reporting these killings meant risking Germans learning their codes were broken. Prime Minister Winston Churchill decided to speak out, revealing to the world the scale of Nazi war crimes. This was a moral choice that could cost strategic advantage, but silence was impossible. On December 7, 1941, the Japanese Empire attacked the American naval base at Pearl Harbor, as well as British, American, and Dutch bases throughout East Asia. Britain and the United States found themselves at war with Japan. 4 days later, Hitler declared war on the United States. The conflict acquired a new global dimension. And precisely then Bletchley Park lost access to submarine messages in the Atlantic. The German Navy introduced a new Enigma version with 4 rotors instead of 3. Suddenly all achievements of recent months became useless. Codebreakers again found themselves in darkness, and submarines gained the ability to attack without warning. American troops and cargo prepared for crossing the Atlantic to Europe, and German wolves waited for them in ocean depths. The Battle of the Atlantic was only beginning. Again,